Welcome to Tyler's India again, where we review all the Indian films, Bollywood, Tollywood, regional cinema, and today we'll be reviewing Imtiaz Ali's new film, Vaapas, Aaunga. I'm gonna butcher a lot of Hindi in this video and Punjabi, so excuse me for that, but I will try my best. Well, it's very much a piece about the partition of India and India's independence. Again, not spoiling any major plot points, but the general plot revolves around Diljit Dosanjh's character, Nivit, who is living in London and he's a software engineer, doesn't love the work he does. He's a very, very, very bad stand-up comedian, very bad. And he's kind of in this, he's not willing to commit to his relationship with Mehar. And on a day they're fighting, he's fighting with his girlfriend, his dad gets a stroke. And she thinks this is like a shitty excuse to get out of committing and discussing what they are. But he's like, I gotta run to Chandigarh to see my dad. And then around the same introduction, actually this might happen before, is we see Nasruddin Shah's character, who plays Nivit's grandfather. We see him kind of wander over the house and request take a taxi to Lahore. And I think all of us know that Lahore isn't in India. And people are like, huh? And the driver's like, what? But then they're from a rich family, so the driver gets bullied into driving to the Pakistani border. And it kind of becomes obvious that he is struggling with dementia and is displaced from his hometown due to partition. And this is the central struggle for Nasruddin Shah's character. It is that Nivit has to deal with. It is how can we reconcile his memories when politics get in the way. And artificial lines we draw from ourselves restrict us from connecting with our past. So we find out Shah's character, Grandpa, what is his last name? Grewal? I think it's that. Has a stroke and is in the hospital. And whenever Nivit comes to communicate with him, he kind of imagines that it's his old friend from kind of his college days back in what is now Pakistan, what was just Punjab back before 47. And in that, he begins reconnecting with his memories of college, of young love, etc. And kind of something he's both displaced from geographically and time-wise, right? And the film explores how memory is a way we deal with our traumas, with what is unfulfilled, and how we cope with kind of this massive trauma of partition and of displacement. And so in this pre-partition era, we see he's really happy. He attends kind of progressive youth circles. Okay, so A.R. Rahman did the music for this, so it's gonna be hype, right? And I think perhaps the best kind of Bollywood number I've ever seen is Ishq Mastana. It's this Punjabi song that then becomes swing, kind of jazz era. And it's A.R. Rahman playing with what I associate with kind of early American film, Gene Kelly, etc. musicals over Punjabi music with Kinu, which is the grandfather's younger self, being this like almost jazz-style Gene Kelly-esque dancer. Awesome number. That was like the most, I was like, whoa, I did not expect this. And has this joy to it of what colonized but unified India. The joy of religions mixing, of no artificial division that then comes from the British's drawing of the Radcliffe line. One of the things that most stood out to me with this film is the way religion is portrayed. The central conflict arises from Kinu's lover being a Muslim and her family wanting to stay on the Pakistani side of the line, while Kinu's family is sick and is moving to India. And how this kind of interfaith couple deals with a division that is precisely based on faith. It kind of has this very interesting stance. It presents almost religion, again, as an artificial barrier. One of my favorite little touches was when Kinu and Afsana discuss kind of both converting to Christianity for a couple of days simply so they can get married without having the pre-processing needed for a Hindu or a Muslim Indian-style wedding, and thus they can get married before partition. So the stance it takes on partition as this very artificial thing, as Pakistan's conflict as coming, not necessarily now, but coming out of what were very artificial lines, artificial divisions both imposed by the British and religious forces in themselves, and presents this picture of religious unity that was destroyed when the British decided nationhood should be based on religion, etc. I think the film does drag at points. It is kind of slow in the middle. It has a lot of plot lines that really go nowhere. I think the central driving plot of what I just described is very strong. I think once we kind of hit that post-partition phase, the film is incredibly strong. But there's like a lot of random subplots that just don't go anywhere. I don't know if I missed this, but he starts like an agricultural startup with some people. He's like on CAD for like 5 minutes. And I don't know where that goes. They didn't bring it up again. And I don't really know what the point of that was, other than making the film 5 minutes longer. If someone can explain to me what the conclusion of that startup subplot is, let me know. But again, the main focus, it's not even Diljit's modern struggle, it is Nasruddin Shah very much carrying the film acting-wise, emotions-wise, through his portrayal as someone who has some business that should have been finished many, many years ago, but due to politics couldn't. The cinematography is very good and it does a good job of using color grading to delineate the partition era past and our current, like, modern era. And in doing so, it has this really strong cinematography of the partition era. And I think that is one of the reasons that portions are more engaging, is simply due to the stronger cinematography that stands out a lot more compared to most of what Bollywood is producing nowadays. And those scenes have a lot of heart in them. And again, that's what you're there for. I think that's what I was most entertained by, most engaged by. And it gets violent, it gets dark. The horrors of, again, being forcefully displaced by a government who says this once functional unified society can no longer be unified, and the horrors that the British leave behind in, okay, it's your problem to deal with now, and how we cope forward. If it starts a comedy routine based on his grandfather's partition experiences as a way for him to process those memories. And the way we can connect over shared traumatic experience, not necessarily as a narrative, but finding joy in our communal experience, I think is a strong presentation of how a society as a whole can cope with grief and with trauma through memory, which is not always the most solid thing, but doesn't have to be. So, kind of spoilers for the end of the film. Again, I recommend you watch it. It's pretty good. It drags at parts, but it has a little heart to it, and it's a very good film. But so spoilers for as the end approaches. So they realize that grandfather actually went back to Pakistan at one point, kind of 8 years after partition, where there was a visa arrangement of some kind that let some people in Punjab travel back to Pakistan. He reconnects with a couple of the figures from his past. I don't think he does with his former lover, and thus that demand of I will return, Vaapas Aaunga, is never fulfilled. And in Divit's uncovering of his grandfather's past, he realizes, as a British citizen, he can actually apply to go to Pakistan and try to return on his grandfather's behalf. That ending there is very strong, where his grandfather kind of fully awakes and is able to recall what his old town of Sargoda looks like and direct Nivit through the streets, past the old church where he would have maybe got married, through the marketplaces, to where he remembers his old family, his lover Asana's old family living. And then he's then directed to where they're living currently. And he reunites not with his grandfather's lover, but with his lover's sister-in-law, Rumana. And through that, the note it ends on is him seeing a portrait of this lover that he's not seen since partition, since he's been artificially dragged away from, who is still tattooed on his arm, and he still has poetry that he's written for her that he needs to recite. The note it ends on of Nasruddin Shah reading out poetry to this portrait of his former lover that he's not forgotten. Again, despite all the trauma, all the division artificially, it's still not forgotten, and there is a semblance of hope for perhaps dealing with these artificial issues that are now national borders. And it has this really hopeful theme of unity, of we can make it past the worst moments in our history, and it's presented it has a lot of heart, right? It doesn't have romance for the sake of it. It has some random subplots, but none of it takes away from that main plot line, which is very strong. If you're interested in the partition, if you're interested in how memories presented through film, I would recommend this. Again, It does drag at times, and it loses a couple points for that, but it's still a very, very good piece with kind of everyone involved giving their heart out. The music is great, the cinematography is really good, and again, that central plot line is very strong and has educated me about this kind of time period that me as a in the West we don't really think about, despite being the largest source of displacement in all of human history. Again, I'm not Indian, and speaking on such a culturally significant moment, I understand that I may have misunderstood some stuff. There were many points in the film that I didn't fully understand what was happening. If someone could explain to me, so there's the scene where like Kinu's on the train, and the train gets attacked, and he's dressed up as a Muslim, which again is another point of mutability of religion. He's dressed as a Muslim, and then his like hat falls off, and they spare him because of that. Were the attackers Sikh or Hindu, and is that why they were spared? Is that what happened in that scene? That was how I filled in the blanks, but I understand I may be missing something. So if someone wants to explain that to me in the comments, let me know. But yeah, good film, would recommend, and it really paints a picture of a time period I did not know about, and that, again, some lack of cultural understanding may impede with, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Imtiaz Ali, and Nasruddin Shah, and Aaunga. The music is really good. Okay, see ya. This is, I would recommend you watch. Thank you for coming to Thailand's India, where we review all the Indian movies. Our next review will be of Lagan, which will be celebrating its 25th anniversary coming up. So the iconic cricket movie that I assume if you've watched this video, you probably also watched this movie, so stay tuned for that. It's really good, and it lives up to all its expectations and more. See ya.